Hi everyone, welcome. Today I want to talk about something that comes up quite a bit when I'm posting, when I'm in other groups with moms and so forth. And actually, excuse me, I'm just going to share this. And so it comes up a lot in groups and even when working with clients, and I know a lot of my colleagues face the same thing. And that is, do you blame yourself or do you have guilt about your child's struggles? And some moms, thankfully, will adamantly say absolutely not. There's a lot of moms who will say, yes, I absolutely do feel guilty. I feel like I should have done this, or I didn't do enough of that, or somehow it's my fault that my child is the way they are. And sometimes it's really, and I can relate to that. Like sometimes it's really deep. Like I just feel bad because I gave them my bad genes. Like if we kind of have, understood it from that perspective, that this is just genetic and there's nothing we can do and it runs in the family. And, I've carried on this horrible gene and passed it on to my child. And so I want to talk about this because, believe it or not only is this guilt horrible and something my wish is for every mother to work through that and release that guilt or blame or whatever, or shame even. But it's that guilt and sense of blame can actually be holding you back from helping your child in ways you might not even be aware of. I know it was for me as well. So, if we feel this blame or this guilt, or it's kind of in the subconscious, and I'm not going to get all into psychology and all of how the mind works, but basically in a nutshell, when we sometimes feel guilt on a subconscious level, we think, no, I don't feel guilty, but on a subconscious level we do. And then we can get really triggered when somebody starts saying, well, a child could have learning difficulty or behavioral difficulty because of this and that. And then we just shut down, and we're not even aware that it's actually our guilt that is causing us to shut down or causing us to not open up to other possibilities of why our child is struggling, or other possibilities in terms of therapies and interventions and so forth that can help our child. And 100% it is not your fault, no matter what. It is not your fault that your child is the way you are. And I say that because I 100% believe we are all doing the best we can with the money, time, resources, energy, and the state of our current mental health, or the state of what that situation was at the time, whether it was when we were pregnant or our children were infants or whatever the case. And I can name, 10 things that I know I wish I had done differently with my own daughter. And I felt like at the time I knew quite a bit. And I'm sure in 10 years from now, she's 12 now, I could again name off 10 more things I wish I had done differently when she was 12. So like that saying goes, when you know better, you do better. But just keep in mind that blame and guilt doesn't help, but neither does this refusal or kind of blocking off to other possibilities because we're feeling triggered. And instead, what we need to do is work through that blame, process it, let it go, so that we can dig really deep. And that's my whole saying, is dig deep with no guilt and no blame. We are all doing the best that we can. So, don't sit with the misplaced guilt, just release it, move through it. And if you find yourself reacting to, the idea that there's certain causes, like I've seen it was on a colleague's Facebook group, and I wrote about it in an email earlier this week, a colleague's Facebook group where somebody kind of got really upset and said, how dare you suggest that this is the cause? I did everything that was right, and my child still has this. And I totally felt for that mom's, feelings of being attacked or guilt, shame, whatever, because a lot of us do feel like we've done everything right. I've talked to moms who breastfed for the first 3 years and ate all organic food, and their child ends up like this. And I've talked to moms who didn't do that and they feel guilt because they didn't know. And so I totally get that instant reaction, but ask yourself, is that serving a purpose, and can I move past that in order to ultimately dig deeper under the surface? Because so often we are led to believe that I know for myself with my own daughter, I blame myself on so many levels. I should have done, I knew that I realized that I had gut health. I was kind of warned, well, you might want to, work on that more. And I thought, it'll be fine. And then so like holy major guilt, I held her all the time. She didn't get hardly any tummy time because she was so darn fussy. And I should have known better about that too. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. And when we are going through the traditional or conventional system, it's very often the case where it's just this mysterious thing. And I feel like when it's this mysterious thing that, nobody knows and it's just genetic, that's where we're more prone to feel guilty or feel ashamed because we're just given this explanation of a disorder. We're just given like, your child has ADHD or your child has dyslexia, but we aren't given any understanding of what is actually going on in terms of root causes. And if we can release that guilt and realize we did the best we can, then we can start digging into those root causes and start addressing them and uncovering them. And that's my whole focus is it's not about, guilt or blame or saying somebody should have done this, but we know the risk factors. There's a ton of science behind it. And I'm going to be totally upfront. My job as, my client's consultant and my client's coach is to be 100% honest. And that is in terms of what can help them. And to be honest in the sense of, I know that sometimes if I say certain things, they might feel guilty and so forth. And I always work to remind them that this is absolutely nothing they did wrong. Because if you were trying to hurt your child, you wouldn't be here in my office or talking to me via Zoom if you're far away, seeking this help. So basically, we want to get insight into why this is the underlying cause, or what is the underlying cause and so forth. And we have to move past the guilt and a sense of guilt and blame. And, I wouldn't be here right now. Like when mom said, how do we know these causes are even valid? And so forth. And it doesn't just happen. And I mean, there's lots of things that can happen and we don't always know the answer. I 100% believe basic laws of science that for every action, there's a reaction. And that things absolutely happen for a reason and it has nothing to do with guilt or blame or something that somebody did wrong. It's just how the world works, how science works, how the body works. So yes, I 100% know based on the research, based on the decades of research, of evidence-based research, that we know certain things will cause brains to be imbalanced biochemically. Certain things will cause brains to, for there to be weak connections, areas of underdevelopment, retain primitive reflexes, all the stuff that I talk about on a regular basis. And we need to be able to address those issues if we really want to help our children overcome them. So I just want to reiterate, it's not your fault if your child has chemical toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, if your child has auditory processing or had chronic ear infections. It is not your fault if you had to have a C-section, if your child had to be on lots of antibiotics. It is not your fault if your child has nutritional deficiencies. There's lots of reasons why that can happen, and it doesn't always mean that mom is feeding the child Kraft dinner, and sometimes it does. And sometimes the reason mom is feeding her child Kraft dinner is because the child is a picky eater and won't eat anything else because they have serious sensory processing issues. They have nutritional deficiencies, which are hijacking their taste buds, and they have gut issues, which are, demanding that they eat lots of carbs so that they can get so that gut bacteria is continuously being fed. And so it is not your fault. But we can totally dig into what is going on under those layers to help overcome those issues. And if I believed that all of this stuff was just random, I wouldn't be doing my job. I wouldn't be helping the clients I help, and neither would my colleagues with the results, which are, again, evidence-based. And I see the results in my clients. I see the clients losing their diagnosis, their IEPs, and it's not always as perfect as that, but we see the improvement when we start looking at these causes and we start addressing them. So I want to just remind you of what Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride said, the author of and creator of the Gut and Psychology Syndrome. And she did this 30 years ago when her child was diagnosed with severe autism. And she was a neuroscientist, and she found that the reason why children are, that basically these diagnoses like ADHD and LD and autism and dyspraxia and dyslexia and so forth that they are umbrella symptoms. They are descriptors of the symptoms. They are not diagnoses in terms of the root cause. And that is why there is so much overlap. And so, if we want to get to the root cause, we have to dive deep into the biochemistry and into the brain structure and what could be causing those structural differences. And remember, yes, we can take a brain imaging scan and the brain can look, we can say the dyslexic brain this and the autistic brain that, or the ADHD brain this, but brains can change. And we have the brain imaging scans that also show that shows the reading activity can be absolutely switched from the right side of the brain to the left side of the brain in dyslexics when the left side of the brain is stimulated correctly, and then they're, become fluent readers. So my role as the coach, as the consultant, is to help you work through the guilt and the blame if that's there, but never to hide what I know to be true. What I know to be true because of the work of the journey I've been through with my daughter and the work I do with my clients. So we cannot bypass science to avoid the natural feelings that we are going to feel as mothers, right? I've learned and I've accepted that mama guilt is just par for the course. And I just become conscious of it. Oh, this is mom guilt. Like, I'm going to feel this, but it doesn't mean that it's true. Just because I'm feeling something doesn't mean that the thoughts behind that emotion is true. If I'm feeling guilty about, I don't do this or I didn't do enough of this, yeah, I'm feeling guilty, but does that mean that it's actually my fault? No, it absolutely does not. So let me know in the comments below, do you have mama guilt? Do you blame yourself? Have you felt blame? Because I know that sometimes people are outright blamed, which is absolutely horrible. Or are you kind of able to let go of that and realize I did the best I can with the information I had, or the knowledge or experience or resources or whatever it is at the time? So I'm curious to hear your results, and I really hope that you're not. And if you are, then please, recognize it as it's a normal part of being a mother, but it doesn't make it true. And if you feel like you're really stuck in that, then reach out to somebody who can help you work through that. So thanks for watching, and don't hesitate to grab my free starter kit, the Laser Focus Learner. I will put the link for that in the comments below. Thanks for watching.